The Sonic the Hedgehog series is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, which is mainly because of all the countless memories I have from playing its many games. However, an opinion that many other people have that I just can't help but agree with is that the first Sonic game is kinda just maybe okay. Sure, the first zone is really fun, but after that all the rest range from fine to me quickly losing my sanity. Thankfully, it seemed like Sonic Team also agreed, because when it came time to make a sequel, they became dead set on making sure it was more polished and refined than the first game. So, after a year of development and testing, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 finally released, and you know, maybe Labyrinth Zone wasn't that bad. What happened here? Why are the graphics so much worse than the first game? Why is it so zoomed in? Why are the physics so weird? How do you mess up a sequel this bad? Game, get the f out of here. You know, I knew I needed glasses, but I mean, this is just embarrassing. Anyway, after getting my eyes checked and being put several $100s in debt, I can finally see what Sonic 2 has to offer. Holy crap. It seems pretty clear that Sonic Team wanted to make a better game than the first, but you know, this feels too better than the original. Like, how the hell do we go from a 6 out of 10 to a near 10 out of 10? Just look at this title screen, there's so much color and life to it. Hell, they also went through the effort to flare up the logo with the shiny 2, Sonic's Less Sass, and whoever the hell this is. Sonic 2 introduces the one and only miles per hour to the series, or simply just Tails if you're a normal person. Something about Tails that you'll immediately notice upon a glance is how unique his design is from Sonic's. His orange and white fur pair nicely with Sonic's blue, and he also has a more childish and innocent look that contrasts Sonic's more confident and mature style. And then of course there's the obvious, the whole two Tails thing he's got going on here. Gee, I wonder where the name comes from. Tails' uniqueness also carries over into his abilities and animations, but we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. So it's probably about time we start the game, right? Let's press the start button and see the peak fiction that lies ahead. Before we even start playing, we can already see a huge difference. The title card, the background, the level, and even Sonic himself all have so much more color to them. This isn't even exclusive to the first zone either. Unlike Sonic 1, every zone has so much more color and life to them. You see, we no longer have a dark and boring industrial level. Now we just have a bad one. Better colors aren't the only difference, as Sonic also has a few new bells and whistles. Most of them are just a few small things. However, there is one huge new addition in this game that's worth talking about. The Spin Dash is Sonic's big new move, where crouching and spamming the jump button allows Sonic to roll off with a huge burst of speed. This is really useful, as instead of having to walk back to have enough space to gain momentum, now all you have to do is just pray your thumb survives what comes next. When it comes to what the fuck is going on with the background footage? What? When it comes to Tails, he has most of the same moves as Sonic, as he also runs fast and can spin dash too. However, Tails has his own unique ability, which is him being able to fly with his two tails. I don't think that's even physically possible, what? Now these moves are fun and all, but part of that fun comes from being able to use them on good level design, and if this game was like Sonic 1, then you know what? I probably don't even have to finish that sentence because you already know that the level design in 2 is much better. In my humble and typically wrong opinion, the level design in Sonic 2 is what the level design in Sonic 1 should have been. There's so many opportunities to gain speed and go fast. I mean, these levels go by in just a few minutes if you know what you're doing. Now, just because you can get a lot more speed, that doesn't mean the platforming aspect was sidelined in any way. You're still rewarded a lot for being able to platform up and stay on higher paths. Hell, that's what makes the level design in this game so great. It's mostly able to blend both platforming and high speed sections together near perfectly. Keyword is, mostly. Alright, I think it's about time I started talking about the zones. And you know what? I got a couple things to say here. The game starts in Emerald Hill Zone, which kinda feels like a diet version of Green Hill. It's got a similar look and design to it. I even think some of the enemies are similar to those from Green Hill. But even then, it still manages to have enough of its own flair to stand out. There are some unique enemies, more of a faster pace, at least in my opinion, as well as a much brighter look. Green Hill is bright by Sonic 1 standards, but Emerald Hill just blows it out of the water, like, just look at this. Chemical Plant is the game's second zone, and wow, would you look at that, a good second level! It kind of feels like Sonic Team designed this zone in a way to show that they recognized that Marble Zone was kind of a disappointment. Seriously, there are just several places where you can just straight up book it. It's crazy. Now that doesn't mean there isn't any platforming. In fact, there's quite a couple sections of it to balance out the speed areas. There's this one part in Act 2 that used to be the bane of my existence when I was younger. And you know what? Sometimes it still kinda is. Aquatic Ruin Zone follows next, and is this game's one and only water level. Now thankfully, this isn't a labyrinth situation, as the zone isn't garbage, it's just kinda alright. Definitely not a bad zone, but it does have a couple things that I don't quite vibe with. Alright, so first off we got these little assholes that can be really annoying, especially the ones that burst out of the walls. They're easy to get hit by them and they become really annoying to deal with. Secondly, the water parts of this stage, while better than Labyrinth, are still just short of what I would call good. You still move slowly, and you still have to look around for air bubbles, though their placement is a lot more generous. I also feel that the level design also gets kinda boring. Although, I do appreciate how there still are methods to go fast, such as with these boosters or these jump pad things. Casino Night Zone is next up, meaning that I can finally gamble to my heart's content. Zone. Casino Night is fun, but can be kind of annoying sometimes. There's a lot of bumpers everywhere, meaning you'll spend a lot of time getting bounced around in the opposite direction you're trying to go. It also feels like enemies are also pretty scarce, which I feel is a result from how the zone is designed. Seriously, it feels like you only encounter around 3 to 4 enemies at most. That aside, I do quite enjoy the look of the zone. The bright neon-esque colors and the obvious casino theming makes it one of the more unique looking zones in the game. Next up is Hilltop Zone, which looks aesthetically similar to Emerald Hill Zone. Just put the two side by side, the only difference you'll see are the colors in the trees. That aside, Hilltop is a good zone. It has a good mix of speed and platforming, as well as this. No clue what's going on here. Although I did say there was a good mix of speed and platforming, you can still tell that this is where platforming starts to become more of a focus. There's just too many areas that are just platform up to higher ground. Not that that's a bad thing, again, there are enough speed sections to balance it out, but this zone and all the ones that are left do have way more platforming focused sections compared to the previous ones. Speaking of which, we got Mystic Cave Zone. This level's fun, and you can definitely feel this is where the difficulty is starting to ramp up. There's a lot more obstacles and annoying enemies you have to avoid, plus a lot of things that can crush you for some reason. There's just a lot of things that can crush you. I also do like the color scheme of this zone. After that we have Oil Ocean Zone, which I actually think is a pretty interesting concept. The level is a mixture of desert and factory theming, with this being apparent through the music, the sunset, the feeling of heat, and the actual level layout being themed after an oil rig. Again, it's pretty interesting and creative. What isn't creative is the level design. This is the zone where I feel platforming becomes a lot more the focus, as there's hardly any places to gain speed. Because like other than these slides, you'll spend most of the zone jumping around. It becomes kinda tedious, and you just wish you were back in the zone like Chemical Plant where there was more of a balance. Oh well, maybe the next zone will be better. I'm gonna need a minute. Metropolis Zone is the worst level in the game. It's not even a contest. There's hardly any speed sections. This entire zone feels like it's 90% platforming, and it's not even good platforming at that. Plus, you have to deal with the most bullshit enemy placements. I kid you not, every one of these damn robots are placed in cramped hallways where it's nearly impossible to avoid their attacks. The worst offender is these sea star assholes that shoot off projectiles in like 5 different directions. It's just really easy to get hit by them. Not to mention that this zone is 3 acts long. I forgot to mention this before, but each zone is now only 2 acts. I really like this change as it really helps with the pacing, plus it makes it so each zone doesn't get too stale. However, for some reason that I will probably never know, Metropolis Zone is the only level in the game with 3 acts. That's right, they decided that out of all the zones in the game, the most bullshit and infuriating one is the one that deserves 3 acts. What makes it worse is that each act is more torturing and longer than the last, so you have to spend so much time slogging through this one single level. I'm like about to punch someone in the face. Okay, after whatever that was, we have Sky Chase Zone, yay! It's kind of funny how there's no cutscene or really anything that shows how we go from being on ground level to flying on the tornado. Apparently we just have to accept the fact that these 2 animals had a plane on standby the entire game. The zone itself, it's alright, I guess. Controlling the tornado is pretty weird, and honestly it's way too automatic and easy to be anything noteworthy. It's like, man, I can't wait to slowly move 5 more inches so I can get those turtles. Wing Fortress Zone is probably the most unique level in the game, purely because this is the only zone that gives me anxiety. The thing with this zone is that it's primarily platforming over one big bottomless pit, and the platforms themselves are all spaced far enough apart so if you don't jump at the right time, Yeah. Personally, I don't really feel this is great level design, and it's mainly because having bottomless pits that you can easily fall into and just can't recover from at all just isn't a good substitute for actual difficulty. It's like, oh, our level is so difficult. It's like, oh, the only reason I'm dying is just because I keep jumping at the wrong time and falling into a bottomless pit that I can't avoid. That's not difficult. That's just really, really annoying. Also, how do Sonic's arms not get ripped off? Death Egg Zone is the final zone in the game, and I'm pretty sure you're supposed to make it less obvious that you copied someone else's homework. This level is composed solely of 2 bosses, the first of which being Mecha Sonic. No, not Metal Sonic, Mecha Sonic. There's a difference. I like this boss mainly because the moves are styled after Sonic, because, well, I mean, I think that's pretty easy to understand why. You know, he goes fast, he spins around, and he can shoot needles. You know, things Sonic can do. There's just one really, really tiny problem that I have with this fight and the next boss after this. There are no rings anywhere in the entire zone. You have to fight both bosses with 0 rings the entire time, meaning that if you take the tiniest, the smallest spike to the face, you have to go all the way back to the start of the zone and fight them all over again. At the end of the day, this isn't really that much of a big deal. I mean, you can easily cheese both fights if you know how to. It's just really annoying considering that this was definitely a decision made solely to make the fights more difficult artificially. Yeah, instead of having the final bosses challenge the player's skill level, just get rid of the player's only life source, that'll show them. Anyway, after defeating Mecha Sonic, not Silver Sonic, we go to the final boss, the Death Egg Robot. I think the idea and the actual design of the boss is pretty cool. It's just that in execution, there's just a lot to be desired. Because you can't get hit, most of the boss fight is just going to be you running to the boss, getting damage on it, running to the corner to avoid its attacks, then running back to get another hit or 2 on it, and it's just repeating this process back and forth until you defeat it. It's just really, really long and really, really annoying, especially if you die. Man, it's almost like this relates back to the not great level design thing. So what happens when you do beat the final boss? Let's see, so we get this short cutscene, we get to fly with some birds in the tornado, and then boom, the end. Oh my god. No, I enjoyed most of the zones here. They were definitely an improvement over Sonic 1. However, if it wasn't obvious enough, by the end of the game, the level design definitely became more and more bullshit. Especially Metropolis Zone, like dude, my eye twitches every time I even remotely think about that zone. But again, for the most part, way better than whatever Sonic 1 was going for. Now, are there any other zones I'm forgetting? Oh yeah, Hidden Palace Zone. You know what, I have time, I'll talk about it. Guess what, it's story time! That was dumb. Okay, so during the development of Sonic 2, many zones were planned to be in the game, but unfortunately, many of them were cut for one reason or another. These zones include Wood Zone, Dust Hill Zone, Genocide City Zone, and... Wait, Genocide City Zone? What the f***? And they say Sonic is for kids. Now, out of all the cut levels, the one that most people agree is the most iconic definitely has to be Hidden Palace Zone. Thankfully, starting in 2013, modern releases of Sonic 2 have started to include this cut level. We finally get to see what we've been missing out on, and ah, damn it, not again! Hidden Palace is another water level, but honestly, it's not that bad. Dare I say, maybe even good. You're never really in water for long periods, and the actual level design in the water areas aren't super grueling and tedious. This goes for the rest of the zone too, as I really think the entire thing is fun to blast through. Something else about the zone that I think is fun is that most of the enemies are ones that were cut from the original game, like these dinosaur goofballs that I can't remember the name of. Again, just a fun little detail. Surprisingly, there's also an original boss at the end. It's pretty unique, as you can't just use brute force to attack Robotnik. Instead, you have to use the bombs he drops to briefly lower him to the ground. I appreciate that it's something different from the other bosses, but I will say that it does take a little longer to defeat because of all the waiting you have to do. But in conclusion, I officially declare Hidden Palace Zone to be better than Labyrinth as a water level. Not a very high bar to overcome, but you know what, the more slander the better. The zones in the game are fun and all, but what if I'm not exactly feeling like playing through a chemical plant for the 100th time in a row? What extra stuff is there to do? There's split screen multiplayer. There's also the special stages, but I can only handle one eyesore at a time. Special stages make a return, and at least they are an improvement from the last game. The gimmick behind these is that you have to waltz your way through a half-pipe with the goal of collecting a certain amount of rings. Collect enough and you go on to the next section. Repeat the process until you get the emerald. If you don't get enough rings, I don't know, cry. The new special stages are fun and all, but I don't know if I can consider them, you know, good. Like, overall they're alright, but there's just a couple little annoyances that bother me. There's a lot of bombs scattered around, and they act as obstacles. However, they can be pretty hard to predict where they're going to be. Plus, there's also Tails, who's just a pain in the ass the whole time, as he will inevitably lose you a lot of rings. These, along with controls being weird sometimes, makes the special stages feel more frustrating than fun. At least for me. I mentioned that by beating a special stage, you get rewarded with a Chaos Emerald. This is the same reward you get in the first game, however this time instead of 6 to collect, there's 7. By getting all 7 emeralds, you unlock an alternate form for Sonic called Super Sonic. Honestly impressive how they're not even trying to hide it. That aside, I think Super Sonic is a very worthy reward for slogging through the special stages. Sonic becomes fully invincible outside of specific cases like getting crushed. He also has added speed to make the game faster than it already is. Dare I say that he is so fast that it borders on game breaking, especially if you know how to take advantage of the added speed. One last thing is that Super Sonic unlocks a different ending. However, it's practically like Sonic 1 where the only difference is just the visuals, so it's nothing that crazy. But like I said, the other aspects of Super Sonic make it more than worth it to unlock. With all that said, that's Sonic 2. The game is fun, but is it better than Sonic 1? Yes, the answer is obviously yes. The game feels like Sonic 1, but if they didn't give up right after Green Hill Zone. There's so much more speed, color, and character to the game than whatever Sonic 1 was trying to do. I know I make it sound like I hate Sonic 1, I swear I don't, but when comparing it to Sonic 2, I just can't help but slander the game. That's also not to say Sonic 2 is a perfect game, because obviously it's not. Those last few zones can be really annoying to get through, and the special stages could have used some extra work. But when paired with the rest of the game, the overall package is just pure bliss. Honestly, it makes you wonder how they can improve from here to a potential third game. Still better than Sonic 1.